let me know. Hello, everyone. How you feeling after getting some sugar in? Stretching your legs? All good. Ready to go? Okay, cool. So as Jan mentioned, my name is Codi Hale. I work with the Resource Conservation District of Greater San Diego County. I'll just refer to us as the RCD for this presentation. We are doing a San Diego agricultural planning program. So we just finished our first phase. So I'm here to report out about the producer needs assessment results. So as Joel already mentioned, we have a variety of programs that we offer for our carbon farming program. We do carbon farm planning, we offer technical assistance, and we support folks implement new carbon sequestration practices, as well as our management of the Wild Willow Farm, several demonstration sites, and we're connected to the Fire Safe Council throughout the county. So our San Diego Agricultural Planning Program is funded by the Department of Conservation. So many long names, but the grant is technically called the Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation. For short, we call it the SALC Planning Grant. It started in summer of last year and it will run through the spring of next year. The whole goal of this program is to identify, monitor, and assess the ownership of active ag lands in the San Diego region to determine how we can effectively promote and enhance sustainable agricultural production. After Terry, the word sustainable seems so buzzy now, but and we want to support producers and the growing ag economy along the way. So we're not the only ones who have done this or are doing this. So in 2018, Santa Clara County did one. This has been kind of our shining star of what we're trying to model after. They focused a lot on preserving and protecting working ag lands because in that part of the state, they lost in the last 30 years over 21,000 acres to urban development. So they wanted to put a plan into place to make sure that didn't continue to happen. In progress right now, our neighbors to the east in the Inland Empire RCD, they're working on one for San Bernardino County. And then farther north in Mendocino County, they are just wrapping up their SALC planning grant. So this is a overview of the whole program. Beautiful graphics applied by my supervisor Joel here. So it's going to be done in 4 phases. So we just wrapped up the outreach and the mapping phase. The top priority of the outreach phase was to distribute the survey, which we referred to as the producer needs assessment, to as many producers as possible. We had an amazing support team of outreach partners. 2 of them are here today, Darcy from Mission RCD and Bea from Food Shed, as well as Tony Kraft from the Farm to Institution Center. They were integral in helping us get that producer needs assessment out to more networks that we didn't have access to or they had really close relationships to. In addition to that, we did the mapping phase with San Diego State. So Dr. Sherry Ryan and support from her grad students. They did some ag mapping of what's currently being used for agriculture and then identifying some lands that should be conserved for that use in the future. So as we wrap up these 2 phases, we're moving into the policy phase. We'll be working with NRCS, the Farm Bureau, the Sustainability and Planning Department of the county, as well as other departments as we connect with some more, Cooperative Extension and Mission RCD, to take the data that we learned from the producer needs assessment, which I'll share a little bit of more later, and focus on some primary challenges and what kind of policies exist or don't exist that touch on those challenges. And last but not least, we'll make a final report to synthesize all our data. So UCANR in 2018 did a similar report. They did a research project that was led by Ramiro Lobo, and their goal was to develop a better understanding of local farmers and the current situation of local agriculture. Their primary method of collecting the surveys was online, and it was open for a month in from June to July of 2018. So we used this report as a template to see how we wanted to expand this process for our program. So a couple ways in which we wanted to expand that is open up the option for more direct outreach to producers. So that's where our outreach team came in great. It was over the phone as well as in-person meetings were possible to reach producers. We also wanted to make sure that there was a Spanish language survey available online, and Joel and Bea and other members of the Food Shed team also speak Spanish, so they were able to conduct these on the phone or in person in Spanish. There were also a couple demographics that we wanted to expand upon from that report, specifically farmers of color, younger farmers, and smaller farms. So that really helped target our outreach. All right, so with the support of Cooperative Extension, we were able to create our own assessment. They helped us revise our content, and very important, we set some eligibility requirements. So we had 3 things that producers needed to meet. They needed to be commercial farmers in the San Diego region. So that means anywhere that was in our jurisdiction or missions jurisdiction. And they also needed to have been in agriculture within the last 10 years so that they had a little bit more of a current scope of what was happening, as well as in those 10 years, they needed to have worked consecutively for 3 years. So there was an investment of their time, and this was not just something they tried out, this was something they really went into. So in the winter, that producer needs assessment was created. We made it digital and we distributed it through January through May of 2022. So we just finished that up. And we were able to collect 99 of these surveys. 67 of those were completely digital. So those were from a producer finding that link on their own. But we're happy to say that a third of the surveys were done with support of a partner. So that was either an interview in person or on the phone. I'd like to think that we made some deeper connections with those producers through those conversations as well. Something really important to us and to producers was privacy. We would talk to people about this project that was coming up, and people were somewhat hesitant to share their information with us if they knew it wasn't going to be kept very private. So Joel and I are the only folks who have access to the submissions with any identifying information. And as we share this results in our final report and back out to our partners, we will remove any identifying information and just sort of share the data itself to keep their information private. So in addition to the producer needs assessments, we also did a secondary, more deep dive with producers that we invited to in-person listening sessions. We hosted 2 of those. Our outreach partners helped facilitate. And those were a really great opportunity to learn more one-on-one in small discussion groups. Super huge props to whoever came to the first one. It was like the torrential downpour day in February. So thank you to everyone who came to that and supported. Farmers are hardy folks anyways. So our first listening session, we had a majority of small farms attend. And as far as the years in ag, the experience was pretty wide range. And then for our second listening session, a lot of larger farms came, as well as some more veteran farmers. So the majority of folks, 45% of the people who came to the second one had been farming for over 20 years, some over 40. So there was a lot of wisdom there for us to collect. So these are just some high level findings that we had from our data from the P&A. Much like the UCANR survey in 2018, the predominant amount of responses came from the northern and central parts of the regions that we surveyed. However, there weren't as many quantities of responses from the targeted outreach we had in the South Bay and border communities, but we did get a little wider spread throughout those communities. So hopefully we heard a little bit more from those folks. Very similar breakdown on gender of respondents, but we were able to reach a wider range of age range. Here, a third of our responses were farmers between the ages of 30 and 50. So we had a little more holistic view of how all ages of farmers are feeling about the state of agriculture right now. We heard from, so 54% of our, 75% of our responses were from farms under 10 acres. And of that 75%, 58 were between 1 and 5%. So overwhelmingly from those smaller farms were some of the respondents of our survey. And we were able to reach a quarter of our respondents were farmers of color. So again, our targeted outreach to get some more diverse answers was somewhat successful here. As we're here discussing at a climate symposium, we asked in our producer needs assessment what some of the primary productivity and profitability concerns were for all of these producers. On the productivity end, the number 2 first and second priority choices were extreme weather and water availability. That's what we heard the most of from, didn't matter what size the farm, how long they've been farming, or what they were farming. Those are the number 2 and number 1 things for everyone that we heard. And since we are so invested in helping people get more carbon sequestration practices on the ground, we wanted to poll who is already currently doing this. So out of the 99 responses we got from our survey, 81% of those folks are doing some kind of conservation practice. So that made us really happy. Thanks for clapping. So predominantly compost and mulch. And then as you see here, lots of other ways that people are feeding their soil. So we were really happy to see that. And 64% of the people who responded are doing soil testing or have done soil testing. So there is a degree of monitoring, which we were really happy to see. And again, the majority of folks who are doing these conservation practices are small farmers. So between 1 and 5 acres, that is the majority of folks who are doing that. And we were interested also in the types of growers. So 41% of the folks practicing these carbon sequestration practices are perennial crops, specifically avocado growers and citrus growers. And then below that are folks who grow wine grapes. So those are the people who are doing the most there for conservation practices. And we were also happy to see that a third of the folks who are doing these had been doing them for over 10 years. So there is some longevity and investment there in their soil. So all of this data, which we will collect in many spreadsheets, we will use this to move into our policy phase. And working with our policy team, our goal is to identify 3 hot topics, priority topics that cover, a good span of all types of agricultural producers to focus on. So these were the productivity concerns that we offered as options. Based on the data, we're waiting to hear back from our policy team to see which we will be pursuing. The guiding structure for our selections, how we're going to choose this is, first of all, is there an existing program that is already addressing this? And or can our group make some progress or take some action steps within the next year to affect these things? So with that in mind, we want to acknowledge that there are some programs already supporting the effects of extreme weather for growers, specifically Cooperative Extension. Their agricultural advisors do lots of things to help folks with irrigation evaluations and such. City of San Diego is working on a climate action plan. The County of San Diego is working on their regional decarbonization framework plan, another long one. And then the Food Systems Alliance launched their Food Vision 2030. So we felt pretty good about extreme weather, which was on top of everyone's mind, already being worked on by some very competent partners. So that being said, we would like to pursue, it's not finalized, but we'd like to pursue issues of water availability and efficiency. So while we cannot directly affect the price of water, we can affect its availability and the efficiency at which it's used. We wanted to focus on streamlining laws, regulations, and incentive programs. So this could look like gathering representatives from local and state agencies, get them in a place where they're able to work with producers directly and remove some of the barriers to things like permitting or access to grants that are currently there. For example, in our listening sessions, time and time again, we heard producers say they struggled with some regulations around overtime laws, zoning for farm worker housing, and then the barriers to applying to the Healthy Soils Incentive Program, which I have firsthand experience with, as that's part of my job. So I understand that that's very difficult. And since the majority of folks that responded to our producer needs assessment were smaller farmers, we heard a lot about the issues that they're having with land access. So we wanted to, and hopefully are able to, focus on how to reduce those barriers to land access for those folks who want to expand. And even more so, as our data showed, the small farms between 1 and 5 acres were the ones who were predominantly practicing these conservation practices. So in theory, by giving these folks the ability to expand their operation, we're essentially giving them the ability to expand and get some more of those carbon sequestration practices on the ground. This is another beautiful graphic here made by Joel, and it's the policy phase all expanded. So we're currently in the policy inventory. So as I mentioned, identifying those top 3 priorities and then working with San Diego State again to do a policy inventory, lots of research around things that are affecting those topics, whether they are current regulations or policies that are barriers, whether they're ones that support producers, and also doing a gap analysis. Is there anywhere where there isn't support or an area that has not been addressed yet? With that knowledge, we will host some meetings in July. There'll be 3 topical meetings, and each meeting will be focused on one of those challenges. And we will be inviting producers, nonprofit organizations, decision makers, any kind of agency or organization who has the ability, who is affected by that policy, affected by that challenge, and has the ability to make change for that as well. We're hoping that by connecting these people in the same room, we'll be able to create some working groups around those policy and challenge topics. Once we get all of that wonderful information from those folks, we will go back to the drawing board and see once again, how feasible is it to make reasonable progress in those specific areas. And from there, begin to work on a strategic plan and lay out some action items in another meeting where we'll hope to invite those working groups back and help them get the ball rolling. Our RCD is happy to host the first few of those meetings for the working groups, give them some structure as far as leverage our connections to see who else we can get involved in that working group that could hopefully make some change in that specific area. And eventually we'll take all of this and put it together in a final report. And hopefully that final report can be used as a tool, much as the UCCE 2018 report was a tool for this program, as well as anyone else who is hoping to make some effective change for our ag community. They'll have a nice packet of information that they can use that has the producers' voices in it, so they know what the people here need. Last but not least, we are here to help. We offer a variety of services. I have my card over here, as well as a QR code to sign up for a monthly newsletter. If you want to stay in touch about this program specifically or any other programs that we offer, we'd love to stay in touch, and thank you for your time.